Greetings, it's Dave Zorko with Saturday Omaha, your connection to food, friendship, and the restaurant industry people that make it happen in Omaha and elsewhere. We have a specialized tour guide on the show today. Ryan Cooper, otherwise known as the Barbecue Tourist, focuses his adventures on all things smoky and meaty. I had reached out to Ryan on social media to bring his barbecue knowledge to the microphones to talk about some great spots in Omaha for barbecue. Kind of an overview move. But Ryan brought his A game and gave us a list to try in KC as well, and we get into places found elsewhere in the U.S. expanse. So, hop on the tour, hang onto your fork, and stay right where you are, and Saturday Omaha will be right back. Keep listening if you're hungry. You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Saturday Omaha.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this. This is Dave Zorko with Saturday Omaha. We are sitting in the KIOS radio studios with someone that I have interacted with in and around the social medias, but never got to meet in person until about, 10 minutes ago. Right. And that is Ryan Cooper, the barbecue tourist. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
This is so cool. So
Yeah.
I have seen awesome pictures of barbecue from all around this land, and I kind of have a not a hidden agenda, a very clear agenda. I wanted to talk about some of the awesome things available in Omaha because there are a lot of folks that are, Omaha doesn't have good barbecue and etc. And I might take umbrage with that.
Right,
So I brought somebody that maybe specializes in such a thing. That would be you.
Yes.
But for those that don't know Ryan Cooper and those that don't know Barbecue Tourist, what is Barbecue Tourist all about, and how did you get started barbecue?
So I got started in barbecue. I grew up in Kansas City surrounded by barbecue. So it was like kind of a normal part of my life. And then I moved to Omaha. And at the time when I moved here 15 years ago, there wasn't necessarily the most amazing barbecue scene in the city. And so I often would find myself traveling back to Kansas City for a great barbecue. And I would try to cook at home. At the time I was a novice at grilling and at barbecue. So I would hit the road and I would go on these road trips. And then when I went down to Texas, that's when it was like, okay, this is really kind of like my thing.
Yeah.
And I decided to start Barbecue Tourist. That would have been almost 6 years ago.
Wow. So you've been doing this for quite a while.
Yeah.
Wow. And how often do you find yourself, just give or take a little bit, traveling outside of the city to go try something or experience something?
Well, whenever before the pandemic, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I would be down in Kansas City at least once a month, and I would be going to Texas or the Carolinas or Memphis several times per year, or around just the country for various events and festivals. So it was quite a lot. But after the pandemic, things kind of slowed down quite a lot. And I started to do a lot more cooking at home and exploring the local Omaha food scene, and not just barbecue, but everything that I could. I wasn't traveling as much, and that really was great because it opened my eyes to how much great stuff there really is here in Omaha.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it was great.
Wow, so interesting. So your initial travels kind of gave you a good perspective on barbecue, which I think has been said is kind of America's cuisine in some respects, to get that overview. And then coming back here, and then you're kind of focusing your barbecue lens, if you will, on what we have available here. So.
Yeah, and it just I don't know if it just happened to coincide or not, but the barbecue scene in Omaha also really started to develop.
Yeah.
A little bit before the pandemic, but particularly, after the pandemic, the number of barbecue restaurants and the number of high quality barbecue restaurants in Omaha has really grown.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And some very recent entries in the grand scheme of things that I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute,
of course.
too. So for those that maybe aren't as familiar with, barbecue in general, so we said you're from KC, you traveled to Texas, we're talking, Carolinas. And so just from a real high level perspective, when people are talking about styles, maybe from your view, kind of what's the difference between those regional things, noting, of course, there's so many nuances from restaurant to restaurant or pitmaster to pitmaster.
Yeah, so that's what's so funny is when growing up in Kansas City, I truly thought, I know everything there is to know really about barbecue. And literally, as soon as I got to Texas, the first restaurant I went to, which is called Louis Miller Barbecue, it's a very famous old restaurant. I was just blown away at how different it was. I was lost. I was like, what is this? What do I do? How do I order? What am I doing here? Kind of thing. And that, I think it was almost challenging for me. And that's what really made me fall in love with it. I was like, wow, this is like, I grew up with this cuisine, and yet I traveled down to Texas and it's completely different. And after I went to Texas, I decided, okay, I really need to travel to all the different places, all the major, capitals of barbecue in America, and experience the differences and everything. And so after Texas, the next place I went to was North Carolina. And, it was the same thing. It was like yet another completely different experience, different terminology and language and everything like that. So
the terminology is really interesting. Maybe what are some of the terminology nuances maybe that you found between regions?
So whenever I went to North Carolina, I remember it was another one of those places where you would line up. There was a huge long line. And I think I got the last seat at the bar at this place called Lexington Barbecue in Lexington, North Carolina.
Okay.
And I was sitting there and I was just staring at the menu and I had no idea what to do. And the owner kind of saw me struggling and he came up and he asked me, who I was and everything. And so he was explaining to me, he was like, I said, well, what is this? Like, what's the difference between a coarse chop and a fine chop barbecue plate, and what's outside brown? And so he was explaining to me like, okay, it's how the pork is actually cut up. Outside brown is like that nice bark on the outside that's kind of more brown in color, and has a little bit more flavor to it and things like that. So it was just like little terminology like that, or like the slaw that they served there is called red slaw, and they just put just a little touch of ketchup in it to make the slaw red.
Just that color.
Yeah, just the color. I mean, it's got a little sweet flavor to it. So just little differences like that. It's really unique.
At this point, because you've experienced so much, do you have a favorite style, or is it more one of those things like all barbecue is good, it's just different, and there's just different elements there?
I will say all barbecue is good. I'm not one of those people that's like I only like my one thing and that's it, and everybody else is bad. But having said that, Texas is like a different level. Like, it's just like barbecue is so ingrained in the culture there that it's got a little bit of a special place for me.
I see.
And it's also that place, like I said, that really kind of kicked off this whole like obsession almost, or passion for barbecue for me. And it's such a huge state, and they have so many barbecue restaurants. I mean, it's one of those places where on Saturday morning, there's, a huge line starts forming, and you meet all the people in line and become friends and everything. And so it's really special to me. Now, having said that, I've been to Kansas City and to Texas quite a lot, especially in the last few years. And so coming up in the next year, I'm really wanting to get back down south and go to some different places, some other southern states, to explore the barbecue scenes down there.
That's awesome. And you were mentioning, the long lines, whether that's, Carolina or whatever, and you got the last plate there that was available. I think sometimes, and this is a newer concept for Omaha, is I went to a barbecue place, they close at 2:00, and I got there at 1:45, and they're out of some type of meat that I was looking for. And I think the Omaha populace sometimes was like, well, what do you mean you're out? But from what I understand, that is a somewhat normal thing. You better get there early to get the meat that you want or the distribution of things that you want.
That's right. Yeah. And that's even a new thing in Kansas City, to tell you the truth. There's hundreds of barbecue restaurants in KC.
Yeah.
And so for that kind of more Texas style barbecue or craft barbecue to basically cook enough and then sell out, that's kind of a new concept, although that is also present in the Carolinas as well, because I have a story about that. I drove all the way from Omaha to North Carolina, and I was staying in Raleigh and decided to drive, I think it's 2 hours east of Raleigh, to Skylight Inn, which is a very famous barbecue restaurant that serves whole hog. The family's been doing it for 150 years or something like that.
Wow.
So I drove 2 hours there, and I was so excited, and then crestfallen to pull up and see the big sign on butcher paper that said sold out, and I had to drive 2 hours back with no barbecue, it was like, and so the next day, you better believe I got up early first thing and jumped in the car, and I got there and, as soon as I could. So that's just one of those lessons in barbecue that you learn.
Yeah.
Is you got to get there quickly.
The time and preparation and limited room in the smoker, you just can't cook a good brisket in 30 minutes. It's just not happening.
No, I mean 12 hours is what it's going to take. Right. It's not like a burger place where you can just throw something on the grill and it's done. So you really have to plan ahead, a day or two or more in advance on how much you're really going to cook. And unfortunately, people don't often understand that. They don't understand that when it comes to things selling out. And they also don't understand that often when it comes to how expensive things are. And just really need to understand, prices are going up all over the place with meat in particular, but it also takes a lot. It takes time. It takes a lot of, just a lot of different resources to be able to produce that nice sliced brisket or pulled pork sandwich. And people don't often realize that.
A lot of these pit masters are sleeping next to the smoker, putting wood in it when it needs it, checking temperatures. And
yeah, it sounds a lot more romantic than it really is. Sure. It's hot, hot in the summer, dirty, smoky, smelly, hard work. And people, that's kind of something to really admire, those pit masters, that they dedicate their lives. They really, sacrifice quite a lot to get us that brisket or that pulled pork sandwich or whatever it is. They really put a lot of time and effort into it.
Some of these little places probably don't have a giant staff either. It's that same person that just pulled it off the smoker and they're serving it to you or whatever too.
That's right. And they're doing, they're doing all the accounting and they're ordering everything. They're doing the social media, the marketing. And so, yeah, a lot of times it's a skeleton crew that's doing everything that you see when you get to the restaurant.
So you published the smoke sheet also, correct? So.
Yes, that's right. And so that's another story. Is I was actually, standing in line at a famous restaurant in Texas called Snow's Barbecue. And there was a guy in line ahead of me that was talking about barbecue. And I was like, wow, this guy, he knows just as much about barbecue as me, and he's just as into it as me. And it turns out it was a gentleman named Sean Ludwig from New York, actually originally from Kansas City as well. Uh-huh. Well, we hit it off and became good friends and kept in touch. And a few months later, he and I were talking and we're like, hey, let's start a newsletter. Let's write about this. Let's create this publication that is something we would want to read. And that's exactly what we did. So we just celebrated our 5th year of publication, a weekly barbecue newsletter called The Smoke Sheet.
So in addition to the awesome pictures on social for barbecue tourists and for those that haven't read the Smoke Sheet, what type of content are you curating and how does a person get that newsletter?
So kind of content we curate, we write a little bit of original content. So every week we either Sean or I write something, or we often have guest writers who write stories about barbecue. And then we also grab, the 10 or so biggest headlines across the nation on what's happening in the barbecue world. And we also try to recommend either a podcast or a YouTube video or a book. And we also put in a recipe as well from friends of ours or our own recipes. And we also have an events list for any, especially in the warmer months when there are barbecue festivals or competitions or things like that the public can go to. We like to have a list of events for the public that people can go and check out the barbecue scene.
If somebody wants to get that newsletter, what's the process of getting that delivered?
So the easiest way is just to go to bbqnewsletter.com, and that'll take you to the Smoke Sheets website, and there you can get the link to subscribe. Just this year, we moved to a subscription based publication, so it does actually, we charge a nominal fee. It's either $5 a month or $50 a year for a weekly publication. Although we also send out a free shorter issue once a week as well. So even if you sign up for the free publication, you're going to get something every week. You'll hear from us. We've put a lot of passion into it. We've put a lot of our own money into traveling all over the place. And we just thought it would be good to, offset those costs a little bit. We're definitely not in this to make big bucks or anything like that. We're just trying to cover our costs to be able to get out there and tell these stories about these amazing pit masters and about all these great products and, all sorts of things about this lifestyle.
You had mentioned competition as well. And one of those things that often gets thrown out on social media all the time is somebody goes to a restaurant and says, boy, this isn't competition barbecue. 2 years ago now, I was like, okay, I've never been to a barbecue competition before. I see this thrown out there all the time. I go to these, restaurants. I'm like, I really enjoy this. What's the deal? I went and I got my KCBS CBJ because my certified barbecue judge, because I was like, I want to know what is actually being judged, what's the process, and what's the reality of the thing. And I think Blaine Hunter, a quite a good competitor here in the Omaha area, owner of Porky Butts, would probably tell you there's just a little bit of difference between what gets put on a competition plate and then what gets served in a restaurant typically. Could you kind of expand on that a bit, on maybe some differences that people might see in a restaurant versus what competition is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So competition, for the judges, these pit masters are basically, they're trying to serve them the most flavorful bite that they can. So they're trying to pack as much flavor as they can into one bite, because judges, they have to take several bites of ribs, chicken, brisket, pork. And so they're only really going to take one, maybe two bites of each entry that they're served. And so given that fact, the pit masters are injecting their meats with all sorts of stuff. They're really heavily seasoning it. They're really packing a lot of flavor into each bite. You could not go to a restaurant and do that. For one, it would be cost prohibitive, but otherwise your guests could not eat that much flavor. It would just be so heavy and it would be kind of gross, to be honest, to eat like a whole porky platter that was prepared competition style. I think it would be way too much. So those are those are really the big differences that I see in the actual food.
The other thing too is the presentation, at least for Kansas City competition, presentation on plates is very specific and the rules are very specific and may not allow a restaurant to be as flexible. I mean, if they were to just go by those standards, I mean, I can only put green lettuce with my barbecue, right? I can't, so the restaurant can do a lot more things than they might be limited to even in a competition.
Absolutely. I mean, Blaine, for instance, from Porky Butts, I've gone and kind of shadowed him at different competitions, including the American Royal.
Oh, yeah.
And, he may cook 6 racks of ribs or something just to pull out, 6 or 10 rib bones to put in the box.
The perfect
ones.
The
perfect, most beautiful, most flavorful ribs. And so you just could not do that at a restaurant. You would be wasting so much food if you did that. And so restaurants, obviously, they're going to serve, there may be things that they trim and toss and things like that. But for the most part, they're going to serve things that would not get put into a box at a competition necessarily.
It's a pretty expensive lifestyle, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, they're not doing it for the money for sure. I mean, they're doing it for the camaraderie and the love of competition. But it's very few people that are out there even breaking even. They're spending a lot of their time and their money to basically get kind of a cheap trophy at the end or maybe a few dollars to offset their costs a little bit, but it's really a labor of love.
Speaking of labor of love, so I think you had mentioned that after traveling to Texas and experiencing those things, you decided to also start cooking your own barbecue. What's that been like?
Well, so I cooked before I started Barbecue Tourist, and I cooked very badly. I struggled with it, but it was still fun and interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I really started Barbecue Tourist, I decided, okay, I want to learn as much about this as I can. I want to know the process. I want to be able to talk to the pit masters and know their language and sort of know a little bit about what they do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I started cooking at home. I got a somewhat cheap smoker given to me and struggled with that. And then I decided, okay, I really like this. I better upgrade a little bit. And since then I've acquired or accumulated lots of grills and smokers. And so now I have, a nice arsenal of different tools to cook on, and I've gotten a lot better, that's for sure. But I've ruined plenty of briskets and made a lot of mistakes and everything, learned the hard way. But now I think I can hold my own. I'm not exactly going to go out there and win the American Royal or anything. I wouldn't even want to try. But I think the food that I cook at home is pretty darn good.
I wanted to talk with you about maybe some of the places in Omaha
Sure.
that you enjoy. If you want to put them in a specific order, you can, but you certainly don't have to. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to get a barbecue overview of Omaha, and maybe even we'll travel to KC. I see some good extensive notes over there. So, I guess, would you like to start in Kansas City or would you like to start in Omaha?
Oh, let's start in Omaha.
Let's
for
do
sure.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, at the place, we'll just go ahead and start with Porky Butts, and that is actually the restaurant I go to the most because I live in Elkhorn, so it's rather close for me.
Sure.
In fact, I often run into Blaine, and he says, "Don't you want to eat someplace else sometimes?" He sees me all the time. So, yeah, Porky Butts is a good start. It's a wonderful restaurant. There's something there for kind of most people, including my family, who don't really like barbecue at all. My son and my wife aren't huge fans, but they really like Porky Butts. The things that I like at Porky Butts, I always love to get the ribs and the burnt ends there. Mm-hmm. And I'm also addicted to the fries. I just sit there and even when I'm totally stuffed, I continue to eat the fries at Porky Butts.
I really dig his the Texas poutine. I like the one that he does with the house chips, the really crunchy chips that he has. When he was just doing takeout during the pandemic and things like that, I got those, and it was nice because he packed really smartly. So all the wet ingredients together and the dry ingredients separate. So by the time I got home and could combine those, and it's like you've got chips and barbecue and cheese and all these good things. And I agree. I think Porky Butts is probably has the most extensive hours of many of the restaurants around town.
Definitely.
And if you need to seat a large family or take care of a very big catering operation, I think he really kind of specializes. He can do that type of volume. He's got that newer kitchen now with some pretty big smokers in there, which is really cool.
Definitely.
Love it. All right, where else should we travel?
Let's see. Another place that opened, I would say maybe a little bit before the pandemic, is Smoke and Barrel.
Yeah.
That is in Millard, and another great place. The pitmaster's name is Wayne, and he had a little stint down in Texas and also fell in love with barbecue. And so he does really, really good kind of Texas-style brisket. Incredible. I like his ribs, and I also like his potato salad.
Yes, the potato salad, because the sides there are very simple. It's like a bag of chips, potato salad, beans, and that's it. But that potato salad and a side of pickles are like a necessary every time I go there.
Yeah, that place is really, really good. I need to get back there. I haven't been there in a while, and that's one of those places. It's like, I just need to carve out some time and make my way over to Millard and grab some lunch there. But that's another place that, you got to kind of make sure you get there earlier if you can. It's sort of limited days that they're open, and it's really kind of a lunch spot for the most part, I think. I don't know if they serve dinner or not.
Agreed. I don't believe at the time of this recording that he has dinner hours, and I think he's usually 11 to 2 or 11 to 3. One of the things I like there, too, you had mentioned I love the brisket and ribs. His brisket, super good, and a different model because he's got the meat right at the counter, and it's Wayne behind there cutting your meat to order. And I always appreciate that if I want either the point or the flat, lean or fatty brisket, he'll get me whichever I want for my sandwich, which is a super cool thing. And you're right, that potato salad is really good.
It is.
Yeah, over on Discovery Drive in Millard, kind of by the Millard Airport. And boy, you gotta look for them a little bit. They're tucked in there.
They are. They are.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. All right. So we've got Porky Butts, Smoke and Barrel. What's next?
Okay, so another place, a little bit newer spot, and this is in Papillion, and this is Jay's Smokehouse.
Yeah.
And that is another kind of Texas-style place, one of the only spots in town where the pitmaster, James, actually smokes on a Texas-style offset smoker. Actually, he has 2 of them. So he's actually outside in the elements, putting wood on the fire and everything, not indoors like a lot of the commercial kitchens at other barbecue restaurants or other places in town. And he does a phenomenal job with his food. He was originally located in a karate school, and that's the first time I went and visited him probably a year or so ago. He was in a karate school. Went back a few months ago this summer and was just blown away at how much he had improved. I would think it almost seemed like night and day how different the food was and how just amazing the transformation was once he went to the new spot, which is in an American Legion, I think, building.
Yep, downtown Papillion, so 84th, and I don't think it's Washington. I think it's a little bit farther.
Yeah, just a little bit, I think so.
Right by the park there. But in American Legion, there was a restaurant there before. The karate studio I thought was fun just because it was so unique.
Very different,
Yeah, but you know what? In the Legion, having been over there, you're right. He's got those 2 smokers outside. He's got a dedicated area for it, and he's got more seating, and which is great. But I would agree. I had a phenomenal meal there, just delicious, and I really appreciated that all the sides were unique and flavorful to Jay's as well, in addition to the meats being good and a good value on some of those larger plates that you can share.
Yeah, if you go to Jay's, you've got to get the ribs. His ribs are phenomenal. And then he serves tacos and all the smoked meats on the tacos. But like one of the things that he's just added to the menu is a smash burger. And what he does is he takes his briskets and he trims them for the smoker, and he uses those trimmings in his smash burgers.
Hello.
It is phenomenal. He's come up with some sort of secret sauce that's super good. And I ordered a double smash burger and I added jalapenos in the works, and it was just one of the best burgers I've ever had.
Wow.
Now he's kind of adopted my little model there. So now he serves the smash burgers with the sauce and with jalapenos, and he puts at least one slice of brisket on the burger as well now.
Oh, wow. So you get a brisket topper?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So instead of bacon, it's brisket. And so just a phenomenal burger. That's something I hope he does more of. And he is open extended hours. He serves dinner. I believe he's open all but maybe 2 days a week. So it's a lot easier to get in and out and get food at Jay's.
All right. Where do we travel to next?
All right. I got to do a special shout out for this place. So Mission Avenue Barbecue in Bellevue is a fantastic place. The pitmaster and owner, Scott Fogel, again, it has a Texas connection. He's from Texas originally, and he worked at some of the best barbecue restaurants in the country down in Texas. And so we are really fortunate to have him up here in our area. He does fantastic brisket. He does great tacos, a lot of different Texas style dishes there. And then I have to kind of call this out, but I was honored that he actually put an item on the menu for me called the Barbecue Tourist Platter.
It's huge.
Which is basically everything on the menu almost. You know, it's like you go in there and order everything. But I thought it was pretty clever because it's like you're doing it's almost like, you know, the tour of Italy. Yeah. But it's the barbecue version, and it's a lot larger and great value.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's a good strategy, too, especially for somebody like myself where I'm going into a restaurant and I want to try everything. I love the fact that, you know, both Jay's and Mission Ave and, well, Porky Butts has like the Porky Platter. But there's some good, like, you know, 3 or 4. I think Jay's has a sampler where it's like something of everything. Or like, as you're talking to about Mission here with the Barbecue Tourist, you know, that's such a fun move. So
yeah. And the other thing I'll say about Mission Avenue is he serves some of the best turkey, and turkey is really underrated. You know, a lot of people, turkey kind of just gets relegated to the Thanksgiving meal, and it's sort of an afterthought. But like his turkey is really fantastic. And so I highly recommend that if you go there and you want something maybe a little lighter, maybe you don't want to load up on brisket, definitely give that turkey a try.
In your opinion, kind of what makes it extra special? Is it just super juicy?
It's very juicy. It's not overly smoky. It's never dry.
Yeah.
And just has really good flavor.
I think I had talked to, I guess, his sous chef. There was somebody else back there cutting meat and working on some things, and she was saying that I think when they first got here, they were cooking with mesquite, but it was really hard to get. And I want to say they switched to apple or pecan. I don't remember, but
probably pecan. Yeah.
But the brisket and actually a lot of the places we're talking about, Jay's too, the smoke is an excellent note. But it's never overpowering at any of those places either, because you know you're not there to, you know, taste soot, and you know it's a flavor built into the barbecue, and I think Mission Ave does that very well.
Yeah, so, definitely, for sure.
So if you're super hungry, you can try the Barbecue Tourist Platter, but you better bring your appetite, because I saw you holding that thing. And wow, that's a lot of meat.
Yeah, and that was just the meat. So there's another platter that has all the sides and everything like that too. So come hungry.
That's wonderful. Well, we hit some super gems there. Do you have anything else on your Omaha list you want to get out there?
Just at least, I mean, gosh, I could go on all night and tell you all the places, but one other place I want to shout out is Rib Shack Smokehouse.
Yeah, Jackie.
Yeah, just that restaurant reminds me more of what I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
They're originally from St. Louis.
Right.
And so it's old school barbecue. There's lots of sauce on it.
Yes.
It's, maybe it's not necessarily on a, picture perfect platter. It's kind of served in an aluminum foil pan.
Right.
But it is delicious. I love their ribs. I love just all their sides.
Their sides are great.
They have some good soul food sides that I just love. So
yeah,
Rib Shack's another place that I try to get over to whenever I can as well.
I love that. Her mac and cheese is awesome. One of the few female pitmasters that we have around town also.
I think maybe the only one. Definitely the first that I know of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes. When I'm looking to get messy with some barbecue.
Yeah, that's right.
Rib Shack will hook you up, and that mac and cheese is fire. And the turkey leg, kind of an unsung hero too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to feel like a cave person, go order that turkey leg and just
That's right. Not only that, but they've started adding beef ribs on their menu more regularly.
Oh, heavens.
I know Porky Butts has that as a special, once a month or so.
Yeah.
Or once in a blue moon. But yeah, I'm seeing that on Rib Shack's menu more often, and it is really good to get that big beef rib.
That's a great move. And there's lots of other smaller spots around too, like, Wayne's New School. As you said, the barbecue scene in Omaha has grown so much over the last 5 years,
yes.
and 10 years, definitely. You could take a tour of Omaha now.
You could. I did that a few years ago, actually. I went on a tour of a lot of the spots I hadn't been to before. So I went to Wayne's, I went to Heartland.
Oh, yeah.
I went to Jim's Rib Shack,
Yep.
and we just made a day of it. We actually hit 3 or 4 spots in a day, and it was a lot of fun.
I love it.
So, yeah, you can definitely do a little tour in Omaha.
I know that you have a list of KC spots over there, so you're originally from KC. Boy, that's a question that gets asked a lot. I get asked that question is, I'm going to Kansas City. Where should I go eat barbecue?
That's right. Yeah, I get asked that at least a few times a week.
Right.
And I always have follow-up questions because it's
like
not like, that there's just 1 or 2 spots. There's literally over 100 barbecue restaurants in KC. So I always like to kind of gauge, okay, when are you going? Are you going to be there on a Sunday or a Monday? Are you going to have your kids with you? There are lots of questions to kind of steer people in the right direction. But I do have some, and most of them are, relatively new in the last few years that are really special and really different. So I'm not going to just name kind of like the usual suspects from Kansas City. The first place that I'll mention actually did just get named #1 barbecue restaurant in Kansas City, and that's Chef J. They are located in the West Bottoms of Kansas City. They're actually co-located with the Beast Haunted House. It's kind of funny.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, that's kind of the area of town that has the haunted houses and stuff like that. So they're located down there. Wonderful, amazing food, fantastic brisket, ribs. All the sides are stellar. It's just like one of those places that you cannot go wrong. However, you got to get there early. The good thing, though, about Chef J is just this year, they opened a spot at Kauffman Stadium for Royals games and at Arrowhead. So now they serve their barbecue there as well. So if you can't get to the restaurant, if you're at a game, you can still get some just top-notch, phenomenal barbecue.
That's quite an expansion there to go from one spot next to a haunted house to we're at 2, super major stadiums. So
Yeah.
wow. Oh, crazy. And I have not heard of them, so that is fantastic.
Yeah, you definitely have to go check them out for sure. They are amazing.
Yeah. Where else?
So another fantastic spot, rather new.
Okay.
and very different concept. And this is a place called Buck Tui Barbecue, and they are in Overland Park. They are an amazing fusion of Thai cuisine and barbecue.
Yeah.
So it's the owners of Waldo Thai, which is probably the best, one of the best Thai restaurants in the country, definitely in Kansas City. And so they take elements of their Thai heritage and they incorporate that with Kansas City barbecue. Everything on the menu is top notch. You can't go wrong, but definitely I would go for some of their more fusion menu items. Not, don't just get ribs and brisket, but they serve amazing brisket rangoons. So like a crab rangoon, but with brisket instead, sausage dumplings, red curry, burnt ends.
Oh my gosh.
And then they have a brisket pad thai. And then they have pineapple rib fried rice. So lots of Asian fusion with Kansas City barbecue. It's really unique.
That sounds amazing.
Also, you can also find them in Arrowhead Stadium as well if you're down there for a Chiefs game. So another place that has a restaurant and a spot at Arrowhead.
Brisket Rangoon?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, phenomenal.
That's awesome. Well, where else would we travel to in KC?
So another place that maybe, if you're from Omaha and you're driving down to Kansas City, you're probably going to pass this place, and that is Scott's Kitchen and Catering. It's near the airport.
Okay.
It's a very small place. More catering, I would say, to, airport travelers and things like that. They're only open weekdays and they're open for breakfast and lunch. They're not like a dinner spot.
Okay.
It's a small spot. You got to get in there, get your food, and get out of there, But everything there is phenomenal. They have really good tacos, barbecue tacos. They also do burritos and bowls and breakfast bowls, things like that. So a little bit, more unique items, I would say there. And just everything there is really good as well.
Anything else hiding on that super list that you have over there?
One more kind of unique place. This is, again, not a place that everybody has heard of unless they're super into barbecue. This is a pop-up, but it's in a kind of a fine dining restaurant. So the fine dining restaurant is Fox and Pearl.
Okay.
And the pop-up is called Night Goat.
Awesome.
Unique name, I know. So Night Goat is only open at this time, only open on Sundays as a pop-up inside Fox and Pearl.
Uh-huh.
The owner of Fox and Pearl is a, trained chef and butcher. And so he uses that culinary background to do some unique things with barbecue. He does a lot of interesting sausages, lots of cured meats, things like that. I just learned that Night Goat is going to soon be moving to their own space and expanding. They're going to kind of go for more of a dive bar kind of cool place where you can get a cocktail. You can get, barbecue late at night if you want, and they'll be open at least, I think, 5 days a week. So expanded hours from their, 1 day a week pop-up at Fox and Pearl. So that place is another hidden gem that everybody needs to kind of get down there and experience.
I love that you brought the deep cut B-side recommendations of these super places because, it's quite often somebody will say, hit the classics. We got to, Arthur Bryant's and Gates and Jack Stack, and then we got to hit Q39 and we got to hit Slaps. And
I would not turn my nose up at any of those places. I often recommend the, Joe's Kansas City and the gas station. That's such a cool experience. Jack Stack's an amazing place for a great sit-down meal. Q39, another place where kind of people that don't like barbecue can still go there and have a great experience. So, Kansas City really just has so much. But I did want to kind of give some newer and more kind of different and interesting recommendations for people.
That's awesome. Well, in this list that you so kindly prepared, are there any places that we have not covered yet, or did we make it through the Ryan Cooper barbecue tourist list?
we made it through the list of restaurants, but there is one other kind of local place that I want to shout out, and that is actually a beef provider here in the Omaha area, and that's Rake's Beef.
Okay.
So another thing I do in addition to BBQ Tourist and the Smoke Sheet is I work with Rake's Beef as one of their ambassadors, and I do some social media content for them. They are an amazing place. They're one of those places that I discovered during the pandemic when I was kind of like stuck here, and I'm like, okay, I got to write the Smoke Sheet. What am I going to write about?
Yeah.
I discovered Rake's Beef in Ashland, and they're this farm that's been around for 5 generations. They've been around for a long time, but they kind of switched their model, and they're now they're purveyors of Wagyu beef. So it's super high quality, nice and fatty and juicy, delicious beef. Highly recommend everybody try that. It's super good for me as a barbecue guy because, it's got lots of fat, and so it's very forgiving if you're kind of a novice pit master. You can. Yeah. You're not going to kind of dry it out or make it not very flavorful. So highly recommend people check that out. And then just like Omaha, in this area, we are blessed with so many good kind of places to get good meat, good things for the barbecue and grill. I mean, there's just so many different places. There's Cure in Fort Calhoun. There's Just Good Meats. Rick's Meats out in Elkhorn where I'm at. Like, I could go shopping every day of the week in a different place and get super high quality stuff for the grill or the smoker. So we're really fortunate to have that here.
That's awesome. And then we also have Helping You Barbecue. And those, those folks out there, whether it's you need a smoker or seasoning or everything, they're local and they're there because they love barbecue. And they literally are there to help you barbecue.
That's right. I buy way too many seasonings and sauces there. My house looks like it's an annex of their place. But I like to go there and just, try new things out, and I'll ask them for recommendations, and they'll usually steer me in the right direction. They also have a little area where you can kind of test out rubs or sauces and see if it's something you might like.
Oh, that's fun. I didn't even know. I've been in there 100 times. I didn't know that they had like a testing.
Yeah, they have a little tester area in the back. It's sort of in the back wall, and so you can go out, and they have kind of open bottles of both seasonings and sauces that you can try out, which is great.
So you just take a little sauce and you just put it on your wrist and behind your ear and just see how it smells.
Yeah, see how it. They also have really good classes there. I've taken some of their classes. I took like a holiday meats class and a brisket class, I think, there too. I even did a whole hog class with the gentleman from Cure.
Oh, cool. Chad.
Chad from Fort Calhoun, and just, try to learn as much as I can. So that's a really good resource if you're wanting to kind of try to cook some of the stuff at home.
Before we kind of sign it off on the microphones and everything there too, anything else you want to get out there, and or where are the best places to keep track of what is going on with BBQ Tourist and Smoke Sheet and everything else? So
the best place to keep up with me and BBQ Tourist is on Instagram, BBQ Tourist, and Facebook as well. I have Twitter and all the other things, but Instagram for sure is where I'm extremely active. And then the Smoke Sheet is at the Smoke Sheet on all of the channels as well. Or you can just go to bbqnewsletter.com. That links you to all our channels, and you can kind of see where we're going to be traveling. I think we're going to kind of start incorporating travel again more in 2024. We're putting feelers out to see, if people have recommendations on where we should go. Is there a new city out there that's kind of got a burgeoning barbecue scene, or is there a particular restaurant in an area that maybe we haven't heard of that's coming up? And so I think early in 2024, we're going to be hitting the road and exploring again, which I'm really looking forward to. How do you find a place that you're like, man, I'm going to drive to North Carolina to try barbecue? I'm one of those people that I just do as much research ahead of time as I can. And so I've been to very few bad barbecue places for that reason, because I've done so much kind of legwork ahead of time that I know that the places I'm going to go to are going to be high quality.
Gotcha.
And so that's the key, is just to really explore online, watch YouTube, get on social media. You can definitely kind of tell a lot about a place by just kind of looking at photos of the food. Ask friends for recommendations. You can also tell, like, if you're at a place and there's a line wrapped around the block, hey, that place is probably pretty darn good, and maybe you ought to pull over and get in that line.
Well, the last thing I'll ask you about, because I saw a picture of this and I've never had one, but it was on your Instagram actually. Tell me about the Thor's hammer.
Okay, so that's a new cut that Rake's Beef actually has, and so it is an incredible piece of meat. It's a beef shank. It literally looks like a huge Thor's hammer. I guess I had seen him on Instagram, but didn't really know. And then when Lindsay Rakes, the owner of Rake's Beef, gave me a Thor's hammer, I was just like, oh my God, this is massive. Like, how am I ever going to eat this? So it's a beef shank. It's got the bone. The bone has all this, marrow and juice in there. And so what I did, I just kind of smoked it on the smoker. It took 12 hours to cook the thing.
Oh my.
The drippings from that, I put a pot of beans underneath it to catch all
I saw that. Yeah.
Wonderful flavor, because you don't want to lose that. You take it off the smoker, it rests for a while, and then you can just basically kind of pull it like pulled pork. It just sort of crumbles in your hands. And so I served it on top of mashed potatoes with vegetables. It's maybe a little less barbecue-y, but
delicious.
Just delicious. That's one of those kind of showstopper, like, pieces of meat that you want to impress people. So I would highly recommend, if anybody's looking for something a little different, if they don't want to serve turkey or ham or even prime rib, you want to do something different and you have a smoker, maybe try the Thor's hammer.
Thor's hammer.
Yeah, and actually I will say they're really reasonably priced if you're local to Omaha. I think Rake's Beef's Thor's hammers are only about $85. You can pick them up at Muchachos either here in Omaha or in Lincoln, or you can pick it up in Ashland. So if you order it online, I think it's probably about double the price. But if you're local to Omaha, it's very reasonable.
That's awesome. How heavy is the hammer?
It's about it's over 5 pounds. It's 6 pounds or so. It's a big chunk of meat, and the bone is quite a lot, but that has all the marrow and the juice and everything. So you got to have that bone in there.
Well, Ryan Cooper, thank you so much from Barbecue Tourist and the Smoke Sheet for coming in and helping me learn more about barbecue, some awesome places to go. I loved our Omaha overview, our KC overview. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
We'll sign it off here. And this is Dave Zorko with Saturday Omaha. And until we eat again, stay hungry. Bye.
Our show is recorded and produced by Saturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.